Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title, today we are going to be going over what we know about Glocks being discontinued. So I did a video a couple days ago now, and at the time it wasn't official that all of the current production Glocks were going to be discontinued outside of the slim models. However, since then a lot has come out, and it turns out a lot of my assumptions in that video were correct. However, a bunch of you guys down in the comment section, like quite literally tens of thousands of you, or at least thousands of you, asked a bunch of questions, and we want to kind of go over that today. But bottom line is that yes, all of the current production Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 non-slimline models will be discontinued and stop shipping on November 30th. And then additionally, the Gen V, I guess we're going to call it, or the V Series Glocks, which I kind of understand as a generation 5.5, which we'll get to here in just a second. Those will start shipping on December 1st. So again, I made some notes just to kind of knock out, make sure we hit all the points that we want to talk about. But first off, the number one thing that you guys were talking about in the comment section was Glock caving, if you will, or giving into anti-gunners. So I kind of want to address that. This is going to be my opinion. The rest of basically everything I'm about to say is going to be a fact. But right off the bat, my opinion is going to be that I really don't think Glock particularly caved, if you will. I think the precedent, unfortunately, was set by the folks over at Remington, who settled several different cases that they were involved in a few years ago. And once they settled, the sharks smelled blood in the water, and the sharks being all of the liberal attorneys, both those who work for the government as well as private organizations. And that precedent has been set, and the government to date, that I'm aware of anyway, hasn't done anything to stop it. So the bottom line is that companies facing these lawsuits, they have to pay for it out of private funds. Obviously, they're private companies. Whereas when a state is suing them, they're using taxpayer funds and have unlimited money to sue these companies. So I think Glock just did the wise thing. And as you'll see here in a second, this actually has been in the works for a little while, a little bit longer rather than we thought. And it wasn't just a result of the California AB, whatever it was, that recently was signed into law by Gavin Newsom. And just right up front, I wanted to go over, I looked it up today before coming out here, the actual lawsuits that are going over, that are actually going after Glock, I should say, is going to be the state of Colorado, state of California, state of Connecticut, state of Delaware, District of Columbia, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, and Oregon. So all of those states have separate lawsuits right now against Glock, and basically all of them are saying one of two things: either that they are already a machine gun, or that they are readily convertible into a machine gun, or just too easy to make into a machine gun with the backplate or the switch. So all of those different lawsuits, absolutely, if Glock was to fight those in court, my personal opinion, they would go bankrupt. Without question. So I think Glock is doing, in my personal opinion, the smart thing to get ahead of it. There have been a number of companies, like I said, that have gone out of business. Like, for example, Polymer 80, right? Which obviously used Gen 3 Glock components. Polymer 80 is no longer in business because of these types of lawsuits, and they're not the only one. There are a number of companies that have gone under, including Remington. When they set that precedent, they had to go bankrupt and sell off all their assets because of that lawsuit. So these lawsuits, until the government does something to prevent these actions from going forward, and I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, firearms manufacturers already have a law in place that prevents them from being sued. That's true. However, the federal government is not enforcing it at the state level. So until they do that, like they did with the jab and something like that, then I think these kind of things are inevitable. So I don't blame Glock for doing it, because the options, the practical options anyway, are, this is my opinion again, the practical options are either Glock went out of business and we don't have Glocks anymore, or they make these revisions and try to minimize the impact of some of these lawsuits. I should mention, I just read off the states. There are also a number of cities that are also suing Glock. Like I know, for example, the city of Baltimore is, Chicago is, and several others. I know there's two in California that are. There's probably more that I'm missing as well. So just think of each of those lawsuits and the millions of dollars required for each one of those lawsuits. Glock would go bankrupt. So I think they're trying to get ahead of it here, as well as there may be some other reasons that we will get into here in just a second. But again, getting into what we know so far. So again, somebody from Glock did reach out to me in unofficial capacity and confirm some of the things that we thought. So again, earlier in the year, beginning of this year, a lot of models were discontinued, as you guys know. Part of that had to do with what is happening now. So that was part of the, I guess, downsizing of different SKUs that Glock was going to have available, that they were going to relaunch in the V Series, as well as, this is my guess here, my conjecture, in the Gen 6 series that we will get into again here in just a little bit. Right now, we should put up here on your screen a list of guns that are going to be offered. So there's not a ton that are going to be offered in the V Series. However, one thing you'll notice is that there's very few MOS guns being offered at this time. Basically the 20, the 21, and then the most popular guns that Glock makes for sure are going to be the 47, the 45, and the 19 and 19X. Some of those anyway, at least at launch, will be available just in MOS series as dealer exclusives. So that is classic Glock. If you guys have followed Glock for any time, you'll know that Glock tends to release models, like example, a non-MOS version, in the hopes that people will buy it, and then when they release the MOS version, they will buy that as well. That's something Glock has always done. But speaking of MOS versions, before we continue on with the different things that we need to talk about today, we do need to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is an optics company. So let's get into that and come right back.
We need to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is the Stinger Combat Optic. It's a mil-spec holographic optic that brings military-grade tech to your rifle. A crisp HD circle dot with a 1 MOA center dot, as well as that 65 MOA outer ring that many of you guys know. It also allows you to select between red and green illuminations with 8 brightness levels that are easy to adjust as the lighting conditions you're shooting in also adjust. The optic is built tough with an aluminum housing. It's both fog and shock proof. However, it only weighs 6.9 ounces. It's lightweight and battle ready. It mounts to Picatinny, Weaver, and Mill standard rails, and it runs on a rechargeable CR123A battery and has auto shutoff to maintain good battery life. Typically, the optic comes in at $240. However, now with my link, it is just $79. That's 67% off for my audience, plus free shipping and a 60-day money-back guarantee. You head over to mcgtac.com/GNG to pick one up.
All right, so getting back into it, what is going to change on these V models? Well, Glock still hasn't released any sort of internal diagram, but from what I've been told anyway, there's 2 major changes that are going to happen. Obviously, like we mentioned earlier in the video, earlier this week rather, the cruciform was a critical component to a lot of these lawsuits. Like for example, in the California bill that just passed, they had a provision in there that says a gun, if it has a certain number of features, is considered a machine gun if it is readily convertible. That differs from the federal definition, which of course is readily restored to a machine gun. The federal definition is what all the other states are going after. And basically, that's a harder hill to climb, if you will, because restored implies that it had already been in this configuration, whereas in California, it just says readily convertible, meaning it can be made into. So that is a big difference, and one of the things that Glock has been hammered on in a number of lawsuits is those cruciforms. Again, I've mentioned it many times in previous videos, there's a ton of different guns that use cruciform style triggers, but Glock, being the big dog in the room, was the one that all these states and private lawsuits we're going after. So they're going to change that, and what I have been told is that it's going to look similar to the Glock performance trigger. So it's not going to be the same, what I've been told, but it's going to be similar. So if you look at a Glock performance trigger, we should be rolling it in here on your screen. The big thing you notice when you look at the rear of the gun is it doesn't have the traditional cruciform. Now, this is, again, I'm going to give you a little bit of an opinion. I've had the Glock performance trigger in since it came out, at least 1.5 years now. And I've had it in 2 different guns. My experience with it is that it has not been quite as reliable as the original Glock trigger. And it's not that it's not reliable, it's that it's just the tolerances seem a little bit tighter, and after like 500, 600, 700 rounds, it tends to gum up a little bit and you have to clean it. Whereas a traditional Glock, you can go thousands of rounds without cleaning it and not have an issue. I'm assuming what Glock is going to do with the V Series is basically make the tolerances a little bit looser in there so it doesn't have that issue. I know I'm not the only one that's had that problem with a Performance Series trigger, and with a Performance Series gun or an upgrade, if you will, a lot of people are willing to clean their guns a little bit more if you're getting added performance in terms of trigger feel, if you will. So again, that is my conjecture, as well as what I have been told by people who know, is that, again, it's going to look similar to the Glock performance trigger in terms of the actual cruciform on there. Additionally, the backplate provisions that are preventing the backplate from being dropped in with a switch, if you will remain. And then additionally, inside the slide itself, basically from the breech face back, is going to be redesigned. That very likely has to do with the striker safety that we mentioned in the earlier video on California's law and how that can be modified, if you will. Now that's just going to make it harder, which goes to the California provision, meaning readily convertible. Readily convertible, it's just going to be harder to convert. It doesn't mean it can't be converted. Brandon Herrera recently was on the Timcast show, which is a huge show, if you guys don't know, online. And he made the point, and I agree with Brandon wholeheartedly, that if you give him a V Series, within 2 weeks, he'll be able to make a switch for it, or convertible piece for it, depending on how the components are laid out. I tend to agree, but again, he is a manufacturer who has manufacturing capability, so it's not the same as someone just dropping something in. That would be the argument that I would imagine Glock's attorneys will make in all these cases, which makes sense. Now, with those changes, one of the things Glock has put out in their literature is that a number of components will be the same. So, for example, the dimensions of your frame will be the same, slides will be the same on the same models. That is obviously very important for folks who are wanting holster compatibility. So that is going to stay the same with the V Series, and the images they have released so far seem to back that up. Additionally, sights are going to be the same as well. So those things are going to be the same if you guys want to get new sights, which everyone does for Glock, because the Glock factory plastic sights are terrible. Those will be the same, so we don't have to worry about that. Another thing that I was told off the record is that the Gen 6 models that will eventually come out, we don't have a timeline on that. However, many of you guys have seen the patents that have been filed online. We kind of have an idea of what's coming from the Gen 6s with modularity as well as some other upgrades to the slide. Those are still planning on coming out at a certain point. However, they have nothing to do with the V Series and will be a separate series, if you will, than the V Series. So it's not the same. The V Series is not a Gen 6. The Gen 6 will not be a V Series. They will be separate. And honestly, the V Series, in terms of a rolling change to Glock's model kind of makes sense. The Gen 5s have been out for over 5 years now, probably longer than that. I just don't know off the top of my head. And Glock typically, at least since the Gen 4s, has been rolling out changes every 7 to 10 years on average. So it's about time that they make those changes. And then I'm not sure how long the Gen 6 will come out, but I do know that it is still in the works as a separate project. Additionally, one thing that you'll note if you actually look at Glock's website in terms of what they're going to be releasing is that there is a number of C models out, which is the compensated version of the Glock, that are also going to be coming. Those have been, I guess, vaporware for a long time now, and I know a lot of folks like compensated pistols. They are all the rage these days, and Glock is going to restart rolling those out with the V Series, so that is something that I know a lot of folks are looking forward to. And again, for those who don't know, Glock initially in their early Gen 3s had their comps that had some issues with the sights getting mucked up by the carbon and all those things. They did make rolling changes to that stopped those issues, so I definitely expect them to use those versions of the comps. However, again, I haven't seen any photos of them, so we'll have to stay tuned for that. And another question that people were asking down below in the comments of my video on Monday was going to be about repairs, parts, all of those sorts of things. And now if you guys go around the internet and try to look for Glock spare parts right now, they are pretty much gone everywhere. Like if you want a leaf spring, a recoil spring, good luck finding one right now. However, the folks at Glock, person at Glock, I should say, who spoke to me off the record, said that they still plan on making replacement parts, so replacement barrels, replacement springs, trigger mechanisms, all of those things for the guns that have been sold. There's no plans to stop supporting the ones that have already been sold. Speaking of that, one thing that we don't know at this point, and no one I spoke with was able to give me an answer, is the current contract. So many of you guys know Glock just got a huge contract a couple months ago now for the Aimpoint Acro equipped versions of the Glocks for law enforcement and military customers in America. From what I've been told, the current contracts that are ongoing and haven't been fulfilled yet will be fulfilled. However, whether or not they will fulfill future contracts with Gen 3, Gen 4, or Gen 5 guns, we don't know at this point. Just speculating here, I would imagine they would. A lot of departments are going to be hesitant, and people as well, not just departments, are going to be hesitant to take on something that is unproven. That is one of the beauties of the Glock system, if you will, is that they have rather a 40-year proven track record. And I would imagine a lot of large law enforcement departments are going to want the guns, at least initially anyway, at least over the next year, 2, 3 years, are going to want the ones that are proven, if you will. So I don't know if Glock is going to be offering those for law enforcement and military contracts. That we will have to see, depending on what comes out, but I don't know that answer. So I think with that, I've answered all of the big questions that I got down below in the comment section of the earlier video. So no doubt about it, the V Series is real. It is not a rumor. Additionally, again, off the record, I have been told Gen 6 is coming as well. So those are kind of big things, as well as the models that have been rolled out. Again, the V Series starts shipping on December 1st. So we will see them relatively quickly. Many of you guys know who have been following me across social media or on the email. The Gen 3, 4, and 5 Glocks are selling like crazy. And again, they'll still be shipping until November 30th. So they're not gone yet, but if you want one, I'd probably get one before then, simply because when they come in stock, they tend to sell out relatively quickly. And with that, I think that's pretty much all I got for you in today's video. If you guys have more questions about these Glocks, the V Series, all those sorts of things, make sure you post them down below in the comments. I will be getting one as soon as possible. Of course, I will not be getting one from Glock. Glock Corporation, Glock Incorporated anyway, they hate me, and they definitely won't be sending me a gun. But that's all right. I like Glocks anyway, and my relationship with them is irrelevant to what I do here. So as soon as the V Series is out, I'll try to get one in here and let you guys know what is going on with it and give you a review, see if it's still reliable, dependable, all the things that we expect from Glock. But with that, that's all I got for you. If you guys like this type of video and you're not subscribed and you want to see all the breaking news, make sure you hit the subscribe button both on YouTube and Rumble. If you've done that and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, you are being censored by an algorithm for my content. There's a couple ways to get around that are pretty darn easy. First off, you can sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This will get you put on 2 separate emails. The first one is the daily deals email. It goes out every day, and it has typically 8 to 10 of the best deals that we find around the internet on things like ammunition, magazines, guns, optics, sights, etc., lights, lasers. If the item, whatever the item is in the email on a given day, it's the cheapest I know of for that item on that day. So that way it saves you guys some time because I've already done the price comparisons for you, and hopefully saves you some money as well. Additionally, make sure you guys are signed up for all my socials as well. Follow me there because that's when we break news. And then lastly, we do have an SMS service that you guys can sign up for by either texting the word gear to the number here on your screen, or you can go to the website here on your screen and go the old-fashioned way and sign up that way. And the SMS service goes out at most 1 text a day straight into your text box, and it either has a new video that just dropped, once again getting around the algorithm, or it has a smoking deal that I think will sell out. Like if, for example, a Gen 5 Glock 45 MOS at a reasonable price comes in stock for the next month or so, I know they're going to sell out immediately. I will text that out to you guys so you guys can be notified and actually pick one up, because I want my audience to get what they want, and the other audiences, I really don't care. So there's that. All right, guys, again, if you have questions about the Glock Gen V or V Series, whatever, let us know down below. And with that, I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.